Hello, hello, fellow NMO warriors. I'm super excited today. I have a special guest with me, and we're going to talk about something I think it's fair to say that most of us struggle with, and that's prednisone, the medication that we have this love hate relationship with. So it's life saving and super important, but oh my gosh, the side effects, right? And with NMO, we're often put on really high doses for long periods of time. So I was on like 50 milligrams for 3 or 4 months, and that's for controlling the flare. And then a lot of people will be on prednisone just long term to prevent flares. So I have Dr. Megan Milne here, who's the prednisone pharmacist and knows everything about prednisone. So welcome to NMO Wellness. So why don't we start by learning a little bit about you? How did you become the prednisone pharmacist?
Okay, so I had to take prednisone too. I have an autoimmune condition, and my story is so bizarre, but maybe more people have heard of my condition now because the only one person who's actually died after taking the COVID vaccine died of what I had. So it's technically a life-threatening condition called ITP. And I had an infection and I had taken antibiotics for it. And I was like, what in the world is going on with me? I've got these red spots. What is this red spot going on here? And I thought, this is so strange. It looks like something I might have learned about in pharmacy school, but I can't remember what it's called. And then it spread down my body all the way to my toes over 12 hours. And I was like, this is terrifying. And I called my dermatologist and I said, hey, there's this weird thing going on. And I really need you to help me figure out. And I looked up, could it be a like side effect to one of the antibiotics they'd given me? What could it be? And then I was like, this looks like something else. And so when they checked me out, they looked at and they're like, none of those antibiotics would cause this. We don't really know what it is, which is really surprising because I was like, I'm pretty sure that I'm bleeding. Like, I think inside I'm bleeding. And they're like, I don't know about that. I'm like, this looks like there's these weird bruises that don't hurt. And there's these little red dots everywhere. This looks like bleeding to me. And they're like, whatever. I was like, can you please just draw my lab values so I can know? And they're like, okay. And then they call me frantically an hour later, your platelets are 12. I'm like, 12? Is that good? I'm assuming that's a bad thing. I can't remember platelets, but if you can't remember what normal platelets are either, because like, who would know that? It's between 150 and 400.
Yeah.
And mine was 12. And they're like, you need to talk to your normal doctor right now. I'm like, I don't actually have a primary care doctor. So I call this guy. I'm like, hey, can you be my primary care? He's like, actually, no, you need to go to the emergency room right now. Okay. I go straight to the emergency room. They draw my blood again. I'm at 3. I am practically about to bleed to death. If I had gotten in a car accident on the way to the hospital and hurt my head somehow, I would have just bled into my brain and died. Like,
Yeah,
I was
so
this
scary.
it was crazy. And so they're like, you feel well, but you could bleed. And so we're going to keep you here in the hospital for a week. And I was like, but no, it's Halloween and I have little kids and I have to go trick or treating with them and they need their mommy. And they're like, and you're going to die. Okay, no, I'm not going to die. This can't be happening to me. Right? Isn't that how you feel?
That's not
Like, this
not part of
cannot
the
be.
plan.
This is not part of any plan here. Nobody is letting me be sick. And so they're like, but luckily we have this great drug, prednisone. I'm like, that one?
Yeah. As a
I
pharmacist, it's
remember
like,
that.
no prednisone, right? Any
Nothing.
pharmacist.
Like, is there anything else? No. Well, they did give me somebody else's platelets, which was really helpful to get me off the floor and
Mhm.
surviving. But in order to be out of the hospital, I needed something a little bit more stable that my autoimmune condition wouldn't just automatically chew up all the platelets like that. And so they sent me home, thankfully, not after a week, but only after 3 days on prednisone, really high doses. And it was this roller coaster over months. They would get me a high dose to make my platelets bump up so that my immune system would stop attacking them. And then they would try to get the lower dose on prednisone, and my platelets would crash. So then they go back up, and my platelets would slowly go up, and then they'd crash as we went down. It was just, we were just chasing this roller coaster of misery.
Yeah.
And then they were like, by the way, we think we need to take out your spleen. I'm like, what? My spleen? Why would you do that? And they're like, because we think it's attacking your platelets and just eating them all up. I'm like, I don't think so. No. Is there anything else we could do? And they said, well, yeah, we could put you on chemotherapy. I was like, losing an organ or chemotherapy? Yeah, chemo, going through that. So I went through chemotherapy, and one day while I was on chemotherapy and on prednisone and putting my toddler down for a nap, I was like, all I want to do right now is just take a nap. I need to recover from taking both of these toxic things and just relax. And I just stared at the ceiling, eyes wide, couldn't rest, even though I was completely tired, exhausted. And at that moment, I had an epiphany. And I realized that people on prednisone need more help than they are getting right now. That this ancient drug that was approved when my dad was born is not being promoted or helped, or nobody is out there helping with prednisone. There's no drug reps out there who are like telling the doctors tips on how to make this drug work better. It's an ancient drug that's super cheap and nobody's bothering to do research on it. And so I decided, well, I'm suffering. I guarantee other people are too. Let's find a way to make this better. And I have more about that story to come later.
Awesome. Yay. Yeah, definitely. Even in pharmacy school, right? We learn maybe about the long-term side effects and how to protect the bones, but we don't really learn like those acute things, like the sleep and all that stuff, right? So I'm glad someone's picked up that fight. So I know this is really vain. So for me, when I was on prednisone, the thing that bothered me the most was like the physical stuff, the moon face and the weight gain. And like I had friends ask, are you pregnant? And I got like so self-conscious and it was so terrible. So I'm going to start with that one. Do you like, is that something you hear a lot from other people? And do you have tips on how to minimize those side effects?
Yes. Okay. So moon face, that round, your face is shaped like a moon face, and then the belly. And yeah, you look like you're pregnant, even though you're not. It's awful. It is so demoralizing when you feel awful on the inside, and then you also look like it, and then you look in the mirror and you're like, who is that? I don't even, who is this person who's looking at me? Because I don't recognize that person. And so it's one of the hardest things, I think, is because it's not just making you feel awful, but it also makes you look different. And my first tip isn't a silver bullet. My first tip is like Inigo Montoya in Princess Bride. He had a scar on each cheek because the six-fingered man had come and ripped off his dad, who was this master sword maker, and killed him. His father had made this beautiful sword for the six-fingered man. And he had scars on his face. His face looked different, right? Like moon face. Yet he was able to embrace that and have it be something honorable, something noble, something worth living for. That when you're taking prednisone, you are essentially taking something that's practically poisonous to you into your body because you're willing to prioritize your health over your appearance for a time. That you're putting up this huge battle that no one else can see really, because it's not leaving a scar. It's leaving you looking different. And so the first tip I have is to embrace moon face as an honorable, worthwhile, purposeful goal, that it is worth it to get you from wherever you are to where you need to go in your health, that it's theoretically going to be temporary. When you go down in dose, the moon face goes away. And so that's the second thing, is hopefully you can go down in dose eventually whenever your condition's under control, and then the moon face slowly goes away too. So that's the second. Then the third thing is, with both the belly, the weight gain, the fat redistribution, the truncal, all the crazy, is they're all worsened by poor diet. And I'll let you be the expert on the best diet, but the number one and number two things to be aware of is salt and sugar. So essentially, when you're on prednisone, you got to cut out the salt and you got to cut out the refined sugars. Like, there's just no way around it. Like, I could go way into the science of it, but essentially prednisone is going to take those two things and put them on your face and your belly and make you swollen and make you uncomfortable. And so if you can minimize your intake of salt and your intake of refined sugars, then that's like a huge step in minimizing all of these deformities.
Awesome. Love it. So having a mindset change, it's like a badge of your courage, your moon face, and cutting out salt and sugar, which also drive up inflammation and drive autoimmunity. So helps with those as well. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So what about, so I often hear people asking about like things like stomach upset or the anxiety, or like you mentioned, not even being able to fall asleep when you're totally exhausted. What do you hear most often? And do you have any tips on those side effects?
Yes. And then I wanted something like this when I was on prednisone. It's like, I went to school for this. I should know all this. And I only had heard of several side effects. I didn't realize there was like 150 side effects documented about from prednisone. And there's actually no list out there that'll show you that. Like, the one that they print out from the pharmacy has certain ones. And then the ones they have on this database has another set, and they don't necessarily overlap. Like, it's the most bizarre thing. It's ancient research and nobody's bothered to update any of the lists. And so what they told us in pharmacy school was really severely lacking. And what they're handing you at the pharmacy with the list of all the side effects doesn't usually include insomnia. Like, there are several websites that are like, here's all the side effects of prednisone. Insomnia is not listed. Yet it's the number one tweeted side effect. Like, what? It's so crazy. And so with all of these side effects, I compiled them all, and I have like a list, and you can search it on my website, prednisonepharmacist.com, of, is this a side effect of prednisone? Like, is this what I'm feeling from the drug, or is it something else, right? Because that's always a hard thing to figure out. So that's the first thing, is you can find out if it's actually a side effect on my website. Then I have a prednisone checklist, and it has the top side effects that people on prednisone experience, and then all of the great things you can do. So what you can do on your own, and then if it requires a doctor's help to overcome that side effect, what your doctor might need to do, so that you can have an informed conversation with them saying, hey, I'm suffering insomnia and I've tried all of these things, and now I think I might need prescription medication to help. So if you're interested in that, it's at prednisonepharmacist.com. But specifically on prednisone causing insomnia, I think one of the main causes for me when I was having the insomnia was the racing mind. Like, I just couldn't turn it off. It was just constantly go, 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 go. And so somebody else called it this. It's treating sleep like she's a queen. That she's just this very precious, very fancy, high maintenance thing that you need to honor. And so what would you do if prednisone is causing all of this misery and sleep is a queen? You would respect the bedtime. You would respect limits on screen time near bedtime. There would be so many steps you might take if that was how you approached sleep. And so I don't have them with me, but I personally wear blue light blocking glasses. The last couple of hours. You got some right there. Yeah. Blue light blocking glasses. I try not to do anything that is going to rev up my brain, like Facebook, social media, reading the news, any of those things that get you going again, checking your email. Just doing things that are calming, whatever those are for you, whether it's taking a bath or reading a hard copy book, things that are screen free, yoga, meditation, breathing, anything that really helps you to calm down. That's what I would do.
Awesome. Yeah, it's super important to have those calming rituals, right? And like sleep is so important. It's when your body's healing and resting. So you need that sleep to even help you get off the prednisone in the long run, right? Very important.
That's right.
So I've seen your checklist and I love it. I remember reading it and thinking, I wish I had this when I was on the high doses. So you definitely have to check that out. It's a good checklist. So just coming from like a nutrition functional medicine perspective, I know that prednisone really does a number on your intestinal lining in terms of the gut health and your microbiome. Any thoughts about how you can keep your intestinal tract healthy, because it plays such a big role in your immune system and your nervous health?
Yeah, I mean,
about the probiotics. What are your thoughts?
Yes, so there's no doubt about it. Prednisone is affecting our gut. It's blocking the absorption of nutrients like calcium. It is messing with the microbiome. We don't really know how specifically it is. There's not a lot of research being done on how steroids themselves affect the microbiome, but that clearly is. And if stress, because prednisone is a steroid, this miracle drug is mimicking your body's stress hormone, cortisol. And so what we do know for sure is what stress does to the microbiome. And so if we essentially equate high doses of prednisone being under severe stress, then lots of things happen to the gut. The way the body reacts to that much stress is it might just shove everything through as fast as possible. And you might have digestive problems like irritable bowel related type things. Like either it could be constipation or it could be the runs. Like it's really unpredictable for lots of people.
Like, that's pretty bad too.
Yeah. And then it also affects the pH in unpredictable ways as well. So a lot of people can get ulcers and other gastric problems that are miserable. But often what was interesting to me is I was taught in pharmacy school that you always take prednisone with food because it causes ulcers. And it's like, well, actually they found that that's mostly a side effect of a drug interaction from taking prednisone with an NSAID like ibuprofen, naproxen. When they are taken together, that is what is causing the ulcers. But prednisone alone doesn't quite so much. So if you are feeling pain, turning to ibuprofen or naproxen probably isn't the best choice. Acetaminophen, Tylenol might be a better option. And then you mentioned probiotics. And yes, I think that probiotics are wonderful. I'm not an expert on probiotics. I'm not an expert on which one would be best. I'm assuming you might have a more informed decision, information about that.
I can talk about that in another video. Yes. And then there's certain foods that are supportive for your gut health, like having more fiber, bone broth, like fermented foods if you can have them, like yogurt, kimchi, that type of thing. and even certain supplements, which I can talk about in another video or on my blog. But yeah, great. So many good tips. Where can my fellow animal warriors find you? Where can we learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so I've got several websites. I've got the Prednisone Pharmacist website, two of the
Love it.
hardest words in the English language to spell. That's prednisone. And then pharmacist is Pharmacist. I couldn't spell it over here.
Yeah, I'll put
But
it in the comments. for
you just
everyone.
look at your prescription bottle and it says pharmacy and just put IST instead of the Y. There you go. You'll see prednisone and you'll see pharmacist on your prescription bottle. So that's the website, prednisonepharmacist.com, where I have all of my tips for how to cope with prednisone, from should I get the vaccine to how do I sleep at night to what's the best type of exercise to how to help my family understand. All of those things, you can find them on my website.
Yeah,
Then,
I love that you've been doing a lot of
the
COVID-19 stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, because it's hard knowing what to do, because prednisone is an immunosuppressant, and so it's like, is it gonna help me? Is it gonna hurt me? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. So there's so many unknowns with it. So check that out. And then I have another website, and it is for this product, which is called Nutranize. And I created Nutranize because this is, to finish off that story I started at the beginning, when I was staring at the ceiling, like, there's got to be something better than this. And I realized that people on prednisone need specific vitamins because we were just talking about prednisone depletes specific vitamins in a certain way that other drugs don't. That's prednisone alone causes osteoporosis, causes high blood sugar, it causes that insomnia, and all of those can be traced back to nutrient deficiencies. For example, osteoporosis is directly related to calcium and vitamin D being depleted and messed up by the prednisone. And then high blood sugar is related to chromium deficiency and other issues, that all of these are combining together to make you feel terrible. Like, having high blood sugar makes you gain weight and feel swollen and all of those awful complications, and maybe even get diabetes down the road. And so I did research to figure out which of the top nutrients the prednisone depletes. That, like, I actually have 75 articles showing this, and then how to give back those nutrients so that people can feel better again while they're on prednisone. And that's what I came up with. I have Nutranize morning, so you take 2 of these in the morning, and then I have Nutranize bedtime. You take 2 of these at bedtime. This one helps you get restful sleep. This one helps you feel like yourself again, to have a better mood, and just, they help so much. People are constantly telling me how they feel like themselves again. Like, prednisone made me feel like a total stranger inside and out. And taking this is how you can feel better. That you give back all the nutrients that prednisone depletes, and now you've been depleted so much, and you give it back, and it's like, oh, I'm balanced again.
Yeah.
I'm complete. I'm not missing. I'm not like a wilted yellow plant. That's what prednisone makes you feel like. A wilted yellow plant, because it's yellow because it doesn't have enough nitrogen, right? It's wilted because it doesn't have enough water. This is giving back what makes you feel wilted and yellow. And you can find this one at nutranize.com. And so you also asked where they can find me. So you can find nutranize.com, and I'm on Instagram at Nutranize and at Prednisone Pharmacist. I'm on YouTube at, well, actually just the one YouTube channel, which is Prednisone Pharmacist. You can just search that in YouTube.
Yep.
And there I have like 100 and something videos. Just,
Awesome.
I'm sure we'll be linking here below. And you can check out, I have playlists. I have a playlist about weight gain. I have a playlist about COVID. I have a playlist about tons of things. So you can learn tons of information all about how to succeed, feel better on prednisone with all of these resources I've shared.
Awesome. Thank you. So brilliant. And I wish I had thought of that, but you're the brilliant one. And I've checked all those ingredients on the supplements and I totally agree. And I think they're great products. So thank you so much for all the work you do. Thank you for spending time with us here and sharing your expertise. My fellow animal warriors, I hope you've learned something from this. Check out all of Megan's websites and we'll see you in the next video.
Awesome. See ya.